أهلا وسهلا فيكم good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, excellencies, panelists and speaker. And those of you who are joining us online. Sam, how are you? And thank you for joining. Thank you for being instrumental in this activity. So today we have our town hall event here at the RSCN, and without further ado, I'd like to hand over the microphone to His Excellency Khaled Al-Irani. His Excellency is the chairman of the RSCN, the Royal Society for Conservation of Nature. He's also the former Minister of Environment and Minister of Energy. Dr. Irani.
Energy was diluted with the environment, so I would like to thank you very much. I would like to welcome you all. We are very proud at the Royal Society for the Conservation of Nature to host such a very beautifully done event through Sam. I would like to thank Sam for a great idea. It is time actually to raise awareness and more action towards climate change. So thank you very much, Sam. And would like to thank Seidel and Idama for sharing with us this event and working with us, and Amcham for supporting this event, and all of you who are contributing to this event, whether here at RSCN's premises or worldwide. We're very proud to host it at our new building. So this is also a good test for our rooms and halls, and hopefully you will enjoy the premises today. I would have a chance to talk about the issues at the panel, but I will leave this, I think, to Sam.
So Sam, the microphone is yours now, and please go ahead and give us your introductory remarks.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, both online and in person. I must say this initiative, we'll talk about it a little bit more in a minute, but it has been well supported by our friends in Jordan. So thank you so much. So if we just go back one slide, please, Mohammed or Ibrahim. Just back one slide. So just in terms of the way that we're running today. Yes, fantastic welcome so far. So thank you very much for that. I will spend a little bit of time just talking about COP27 more broadly, and then talking about this initiative, Walk2COP27. We'll then have an address from the Ministry of the Environment, so very much looking forward to that. We'll then have Kristof from the Seidel Foundation, who's provided some recorded message for us to listen to, and then we have two panels. So the real meat, the content of this is in those panels, notwithstanding the excellent keynote before, but the content is in those panels. Please ask questions, please get interactive. If we don't answer them during the meeting, we'll answer them afterwards. We are recording this so people can look at it on catch up. And there is, for those people online, the opportunity to listen in Arabic as well. So there's ongoing interpretation, and you'll see a little button at the bottom around Zoom. So if we could have the next slide, please. Okay. So if we could try and fix that while I'm talking. So I can't see the slide at the moment. AV people, and I don't think people online can, but I will just talk to COP briefly. So I was lucky enough to have an initiative. That initiative was a walk from London through to Glasgow. So the 850 kilometers, we did it in 26 days. We did that in order to try and raise a little bit of awareness around COP. We think it's critically important that citizens, normal people like me, like many of you, we all understand what COP is, even if we're not going. And I'm sure many of you are going, but even if you're not going, it's an important time in the diary. Now, a lot of fine words were talked about at COP. So yeah, previous slide, please. Previous slide. Previous slide, Ibrahim. No, previous, the one before that. That one. Stay on that. Thank you. Yeah, and so I think COP26, it was the fifth year after the Paris Agreement. It was extremely important that certainly the mitigation, the nationally defined contributions were announced, and they kept us within the Paris Agreement of 2 degrees, or even better, 1.5. So it was a tall order. And I think in summary, lots was done, many conversations were had, some very interesting bilateral and sort of multilateral arrangements and agreements were made. The climate pact was signed, but we were left without a set of national plans which keep us within the Paris Agreement. And so the big challenge for COP27, the enormous challenge, of course, is to try and keep us within the Paris Agreement, the 2 degrees. And at the moment, it is not looking so hopeful. I think we've had 25 countries revise their nationally defined contributions. That doesn't really contribute to much in terms of reducing the expected average increase in global temperatures. And we're now at 2.5 or 2.5 or 2.6, depending on who you talk to, if you add those up. So we really hope, the first thing is that mitigation is a big topic and progress is made in the COP by all that are there. And I really hope that, and give you strength for any of you who are going, to really help galvanize that conversation. So the second bit about COP is I think that we recognize generally that adaptation has been a poor cousin of mitigation. So whether it's business or nationally, there's been a lot of conversation about national targets in terms of mitigation and emissions reduction. There has been less in terms of adaptation. It's a huge challenge, as we know. It's a huge challenge because we're told by the IPCC reports. It's a huge challenge because we can feel it on our doorstep. And that doesn't matter if you're in London now, on the east coast of the US, or you're in Pakistan or Nigeria. We are all beginning to feel, some more than others, the impact of climate change. And so adaptation has got to be a much bigger component and topic than it has been in the past. And that leads us quickly onto loss and damage. So this extremely important, difficult conversation, which basically at its premise has this concept of the people who've created the issue and had the, and emitted the most greenhouse gas, and not the people suffering the most necessarily. And so first of all, there needs to be some form of central funding, like an insurance fund, to make sure that we can deliver and repair the damage done by climate change, but also underpinning that fund has to be some principles of equity and fairness. And just the order of magnitude required here is I was saying that in Pakistan, just the incident of the floods in one country is going to require about $35 billion. So that's 1 year, one event, one country, but even that is 35 billion. So we're talking about enormous numbers. So when we get to the financing topic, which of course will be an important part of COP, 100 billion doesn't look like a lot, and it hasn't yet been met. And this was the global commitment from the global south to the global north to the global south. It has not yet been met, the 100 billion. It should have been met, I think it was in 2020, and it hasn't yet been met. So that's back on the table. There's also hopefully going to be some big progress around private financing and how that's deployed, about the incorporation of climate financing into national budgets, and progress on carbon markets, which at least is one way of harnessing the system and the market-based system that we have in many of our countries. So, of course, there will be other important things, and we don't have time to go into that, and you'll have some experts here amongst you who know far more about this than me. But my key point is that we need to open this box up and allow everybody to inspect it. We need the people who go to COP, who represent us, to know that we're interested in the outcomes, critically interested in the outcomes. We want strong outcomes, we want good outcomes, we want you to go there with confidence. And so this is where Walk2COP27, this initiative, was born out of. So if we could just move forward one slide, please, Ibrahim or Mohammed. So this is where this initiative was born out of. So the initiative was an attempt, it is an attempt, in a small way, to bridge that gap between what can be seen as quite a technical meeting and the citizens, the people, the lay people, who in fact are going to be the most impacted. So the idea was to build something which had mass participation at its heart, which sought to talk and raise awareness around the four key outputs, I think, of climate action, which are mitigation or decarbonisation, resilience or adaptation, climate justice, and then circularity. And the way that we want to do this, the way that we've been seeking to do this, is through creating an opportunity to learn. And so, for instance, today is a key opportunity to learn. The second is to forge solidarity, to give each of us confidence that we're not the only ones who care, that our neighbours care, our friends and family care, our peers at work care. We all care, and we all want to work together and act together. So that solidarity is really important. And then the final bit is to make connections. And those might be technical connections. They might be connections which are ideas based, but it's across demography, cross age, cross country. And those connections are really powerful as we begin to think about how we address this enormous systemic challenge. So there's three ways to get involved. We're almost at the end of this initiative, but there are three important ways to get involved. The first one is up until the 18th of November, the end of COP. We are encouraging as many people as possible to join us on an app called Atlas Go, to walk or run or cycle or travel in a wheelchair with us. And each of those kilometers walked or traveled will contribute to trees planted by the Jane Goodall Institute in Burundi. And so we want to get to 100,000 trees. We've only got to 35,000 at the moment. We need your help. So please join, create a team, and help us meet that 100,000 goal. The second is that tomorrow we have a World Town Hall. So this is 90 minutes, and it's an opportunity for people to provide their input. So it's a mass collaborative platform we're using, a software platform. We can take your input, we'll synthesize that, and we'll publish that input during COP. And then the third is to support and get on this and use this to amplify your climate messages as well. So through the different social media platforms, but also checking out our content that we've created through the walk so far, which started on the 22nd of September. So we've had 10 town halls up until now, which are all recorded and available. We've had 30 clubhouse sessions, which are recorded and again available. And we've had endless amounts of activity on social media, which I hope is helping us all get the message across. So with that, Raghad, I'd like to hand back to you and thank you very much for your participation in this. Back to you, and let's really looking forward to the rest of the agenda.
Thank you, Sam. I believe Mr. Kristof Duwaerts from Hans Seidel Foundation is with us online.
Yes, so I think we have a recording which we are going to listen to, and then we have do we still have an input from the ministry, Raghad?
Not yet, but traffic is crazy, so we'll just delaying this. If you have a recording, please go ahead. Yeah,
so Ibrahim, can we play that recording now, please?
Thank you very much for being with us today in the 11th and final event of Walk2COP27 before reaching the venue of this year's Conference of Parties in Sharm el-Sheikh. We at Hans Seidel Stiftung are glad and honored to take part in this important initiative, highlighting the urgent need for climate action. We are happy that our valued partner of more than 2 decades, the Royal Society for the Conservation of Nature, as a pivotal actor in all related processes, provides for the forum of today's town hall meeting. The presence of everyone here today with us is indicative the importance climate change is being attributed in Jordan. Even among Arab nations, the Hashemite Kingdom today is among the most climate-stressed nations on earth, water scarcity being unrivaled, while its vast biodiversity surpassing that of Germany's, ranging from the desert in Burko, the forests in Ajloun, the wadis in Dana to the corals in Aqaba, to just name a few, is under threat. The Ministry of Environment and other central institutions in Jordan have started a number of timely initiatives to avert the negative outfall of climate change on the country and its people. The international community is increasingly supporting Jordan to achieving its objectives. The RSCN is active all over the country, and a wide range of environmental organizations are supporting these endeavors. It cannot be stressed enough that the mitigation of and adaptation to climate change can only be successful if being understood as a process encompassing the whole society. Leave no one behind. True, we need to discuss financing, which is of particular importance to cash-straddled economies. We need to discuss the diversification of energy generation, pivotal to economic growth and societal stability. And we need to discuss legislation to create favorable legal frameworks regulating all related aspects. This truly is the role of all governments participating, walking the talk. Time again, This year's COP27 has been termed the implementation COP. In the implementation, the people will be needed. Local communities need to support climate change action. Civil society needs to be heard and be attributed a place at the table. Only the involvement of all stakeholders will create a lasting impact. Climate change, furthermore, is not particularly known for respecting human-drawn borders. Hence, regional cooperation beyond international forums may well be the most sustainable path to success. In all of the aforesaid, the understanding of climate-related aspects, which goes beyond mere awareness campaigns and encompassing all layers of society on individual, municipal, government, national and regional levels, is among the most important cornerstones to sustainable success. It is important to take on board all generations and genders and give the overwhelming majority of young people their voice. The RSCN can provide, and in fact is providing, those services. From November 16 to 17, we will be highlighting the many contributions which can be made at the COP venue in Sharm el-Sheikh, encompassing a regional delegation from all of the MENA states. We shall be very happy to welcome all of you at our exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say a word of thanks to everybody who has been involved in all the activities that and all the meetings and all the readiness for this event today. There were many representatives from civil societies, youth groups, so thank you all very much. And of course, thank you to RSCN, Randaxous and everybody from Dr. Irani's group. We will start with our first panel, Climate Change Challenges and Responses in Jordan. We have Dr. Irani, Dr. Khaled Al-Irani, Chairman of RSCN, His Excellency Samir Judeh, Chairman at Wind Power Company, Chairman of Amcham, and Vice Chair at Idama. We also have Mr. Nidal Al Oran, Head of Environmental, Climate Change and Disaster Risk Reduction at the UNDP.
Yeah, and Raghad, sorry, just to interject, we have Nadia as a panelist. So
Nadia is not here.
She's now logged in as a panelist.
I'm on the Zoom. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't think so.
Okay, you're there. Yeah, we can hear you,
so
Nadia.
So we have Miss Nadia Al Saeed. She is the CEO of Bank Etihad. Sorry, Sitti. She's joining us online. So ahla wa sahla, and we're happy to have a panel that includes at least one representative that is a woman besides me. I would like, in your own words, for the panelists, to summarize in around 3 minutes your primary perspective on climate change challenges and responses in Jordan. And please, let's focus on Jordan and not to have anything that is general, like, climate change challenges worldwide, because this is a Jordanian session, and I'm sure that people who are all over the globe would like to hear the Jordanian perspective. So, Dr. Irani, can we start with you?
Thank you very much, and thanks Chris and Sam for a well-articulated speech about climate change. I don't think this initiative should end, Sam. You said towards the end. I think this initiative should continue, especially, it is at the right time where COP, I'm glad actually COP is finishing before the World Cup, so we can focus on both. I think we should turn it into a high-profile interest of people in the Arab world, since the Arab world, and Jordan particularly, is very much affected by climate change. And as mentioned before, it's not only water, stressed country with more of a climate change impact. We are suffering more, some say up to 25% more drought because of climate change. Our ecosystems in Jordan are being affected. If you look at the corals in the Red Sea, they are under pressure because of climate change and increase in temperature. In Jordan, if you look at biodiversity, plant cycle, the impact on plants and biodiversity in general in Jordan. We can notice that in our protected areas. Luckily, the Royal Society for the Conservation of Nature has implemented more than 5% of the country under protection, under protected areas, and more research are applied in those protected areas, especially in relation to impact. Raghad. One bad news, although you told me not to focus on international, but the UNEP just released a report last week. It was really a negative report saying that there is no credible pathway to really limiting, reducing the temperature to 1.5 degrees. And there is no real, it's inadequate mitigation measures globally. So that affects us. So this, what is happening internationally is affecting us, affecting Jordan, affecting the Arab world. As you all know, we are not contributors to emissions, but we are really, all the Arab world is maybe 1% compared to, of emission compared to the rest of the world, but we are really affected. And the international community are not really pledging or committing enough finance for countries like Jordan for adaptation, as Sam mentioned. So we need, why we have such events, I think we need to build critical mass of people from different disciplines to understand what's happening with this politics and to create lots of pressure to drive this agenda forward, because since COP26 till today, as UNEP mentioned, no real hard efforts has been done. And now with what's happening in the world with Russia and Europe, we are worried more that more countries in Europe will go into coal use and others, and this will again affect us locally and regionally and in the Arab world, of course. I will not dwell on that, but Jordan is doing, Samer will be mentioning some of that in relation to green economy. I was honored to lead the Green Economy Royal Committee to work with the government to have an agenda for the coming 10 years on green economy. And this is partly related to, of course, climate change and related to our economy. Jordan moved quite a very good in renewable energy. In some cases, I think 20% or 29% of our electricity was at one point on renewable energy, and Samer would be the expert to talk about that. But in others, we are working on other elements of our green economy, where we work on biodiversity conservation, continuation of the establishment of the protected areas in the country to make sure we have a network of protected areas that represents the different ecosystems and habitats of the country. And we are working on organic farming and other, where we have targets, clear targets for the government to implement that, and this will be reviewed every 2 years. So we are, now our focus will be on our green economy program, and this hopefully will help us to develop further our water and energy and food security nexus. Thank you very much.
Samer.
Thank you very much, Raghad, and Your Excellency. Khaled Al-Irani is a dear friend. Her Excellency Nadia is also a dear friend, and Mr. Al Oran, Dr. Al Oran.
They gave me the
it's a pleasure indeed to be here. I can't say that I'm well versed when it comes to environmental protection, especially seated here at the headquarters of the Royal Society for the Conservation of Nature, but I can say that we have learned a lot from our cooperation with RSCN, and I commend you, and I'd like to take this opportunity to actually commend RSCN for all the great work that they do. You asked me to talk about Jordan, Raghad, and my dear friend Khaled, you asked me to talk about renewables, and specifically in Jordan. I have to say that, and I'm an optimistic person by nature, so I'll start with a bit of pessimism, and then I will polish that with a bit of optimism. My pessimism basically relates to the pessimism that is found worldwide, which is that we are not doing enough for climate change and environmental protection, and Jordan is no exception. I think this is one area where, and I thank Sam for his initiative, but this is one area where the global village, as we have come to call it today, do not need to reinvent the wheel. We all have the same goal, we all have the same mission, we all know what is the problem and what is the root cause of this, and we all know what the solution is. So it is not a question of each country doing this on its own, because if one country is saving carbon emissions and another is not, those carbon emissions are going to affect the country that has gone its long way to preserve the environment. So moving back to Jordan, like the rest of the countries worldwide, we have done our bit, but again, whatever we've done, I believe, is still not enough. I'll turn into the optimism now. I am a living example of a success story, and so are you in your previous capacity as somebody who worked on a renewable energy project. Jordan has come a long way since we started back in 2009, 2010 with approaching the government to develop and construct and operate privately sponsored utility-scale renewable energy projects. We developed a 117 megawatt wind farm, several megawatts of solar farms, not just myself, but many other developers. When we started back in 2010, there was almost zero renewable energy in the energy mix. Today, $4.5 billion of investment later, we can proudly say that Jordan is reaching a set goal that was previously set at 20%, and now with the new strategy is increasing. In my humble opinion, it's not enough, but it's a step in the right direction. And now 20% of our energy mix comes from renewables. But that's not enough. Renewable energy, with all its benefits of being, of providing energy security, is a major investment and a major driver and a major benefit to climate change and carbon emission control and prevention. But along with that, there has to be some serious attempt towards increasing awareness for energy efficiency. Also the awareness, and I think one of the speakers, I believe it was Sam probably who talked about it, also the awareness, social awareness at all levels of society in terms of efficiency, waste control, waste management, e-waste, carbon emissions, moving towards electrification of the economy, public transportation has to become more and more electric and environmentally friendly. You talked about Aqaba, Khaled, and we all, those of us who go to Aqaba as tourists, unlike you who go there for other more important reasons, we do notice the climate change, and we do notice, believe it or not, without having any instrumentation, we do notice the warmer seas and reduced corals for those of us who snorkel and not dive. So I believe that we really have to make a move, a hard move. And when I say we, I don't mean we in Jordan, but we as the world, we need to make a hard move. I'll end with one note regarding conservation and protection, environmental protection. When we develop these projects, the investors in these projects, the sponsors, were all international, solid investors supported by top-notch investment banks. The IFIs of the world, and one of them seated right in front of me from the European Union, and he knows the support that the European Union has provided. Now, a major expense in those developments, and again, I'm a living example of that, is the environment and social impact studies that we had to do, and the initiatives and the regimes that we continuously have to monitor throughout the life of the project. RSCN has been in close coordination with us about bird monitoring, preservation, but then again, how many projects are we talking about? 10, 20, 30, and these are large projects financed by the international community. This has to filter down to smaller, medium-sized, local investments, and even smaller than that, all the way down to the households. I'll stop here so that I don't take much time, and would you like me to pass it on, or Dr. Oran?
Shukran. Masar Khair, good afternoon, Excellencies, friends and colleagues. Thank you so much for the kind invitation. And before I answer, I have actually, a brief, straightforward answer for the question. But before, because Mr. Samer said that we are not, let's say, doing enough for climate change.
You're not done yet. I have more questions.
Okay, so I'm happy to answer any question, but I do agree with you. Yet I think we have, let's say, some current, let's say, good momentum that we can build upon. Just briefly, that to say that we have, I think, in Jordan a good policy framework, not perfect, that we need from time to time to review, to improve, to update. But at least when I compare ourselves with our neighboring countries, I think we have a good policy framework. We have a political commitment. We have a political will that, let's say, facilitate our work. And when I look, because His Excellency Mr. Khaled mentioned the modernization vision, I think this is another actually type of support, another roadmap for not only for the government, but for NGOs, for private sector, for communities. So again, I think we have something that we can build upon. That's just a quick intro before looking at the challenges. And on the challenges, and this is from actually our perception as UNDP, and I think most of our colleagues in this room, they are familiar with what we do. But when we speak about challenges, most of the people usually say funding, financing is the key challenge. Yes, but I mean, we should put this behind. I mean, we have this global crisis. We should be adaptive. Think of new non-conventional, let's say, sources for funding. For example, blended finance, partnership with the private sector. So I do not, look at funding as a challenge, because we should again put this behind. But again, from our experience, working and heavily engaged in climate change agenda in Jordan, we have actually different challenges. Just to name a few. One, I think, I would not say lack, but we have limited integrated planning. You find each sector, each ministry, does the planning in solo without, let's say, exactly. And I've heard, for example, Prince Al-Hassan keeps saying, the importance of having this nexus approach, at least for the three key sectors: the WIF, the water, energy, and agriculture, or so integrated planning is important. I see some good, I would say, efforts in that regard, but this should be, let's say, in our genes as ministries. The other thing that sometimes we keep speaking about mainstreaming climate change as a cross-cutting into our strategies and policies. But, you know, in fact, in reality, we do not see. Sometimes we just mention that in the policies and the strategies, but we do not actually practice that. An important thing that actually as UNDP we have been trying, you know, to bring the attention of the different concerned institutions is the gap between science and policy making. I mean, they do not speak to each other. Unfortunately, I mean, policymakers do not make use, do not benefit from the findings of scientific research. And when it comes to the climate change, I mean, you cannot live without scientific research. Mr. Khaled has referred to one of the reports prepared by UNEP. Again, I mean, science is there. So there is a gap. And I remember 5-6 years ago as UNDP, we have came up with a proposal to bridge that gap between scientific community, universities, research institutions, and policymakers represented by the different ministries. Maybe another quick point on monitoring and evaluation. I mean, in theory, we do have monitoring and evaluation, frameworks, but we do not apply it. I mean, we have plenty of strategies and policies, but when we get into implementation, we do not, look at these policies, strategies, what we have achieved, and the things that we did not achieve. Also, two quick points, because mentioned by His Excellency Khaled and Mr. Samir on both the green growth, the green economy, and Aqaba. And whenever Aqaba is mentioned, I would add to the green blue. I mean, green economy / blue economy, and this will be actually the scope of our upcoming, inshallah, project in Aqaba to establish the proper framework to promote the blue economy. That's I would say a quick brief from my side. Over to you. Thank you.
So Ms. Nadia Al Saeed, can you reflect on your thoughts regarding the challenges we are facing in Jordan and the responses to those challenges, and also your comments on what the fellow panelists have just mentioned?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, first I have to apologize for this delay. Actually, 2:30 sharp, I was at Wild Jordan. So I was misdirected, obviously. Anyway, I'm 2 minutes away. Basically, I would say the angle that I would take maybe is the angle that looks at the impact on the economy at large. I mean, banks are very well connected to the pulse of the economy. And I would say that for sure, we know that in Jordan, the whole economy and every industry will be affected by what's happening in climate change. And I would say that, of course, adaptation to what is happening is yet probably unclear in some areas. For us, it's always a matter of risk and opportunity. So we try to navigate our way between the two. To start with, banks are in the business of managing risk and understanding risk. And for sure, climate change is becoming an integral part of the risk that every business is taking. And it's something where there is really a learning curve, a big learning curve for businesses themselves. It's a big learning curve for the financial institutions to understand what to do, to understand what are the right financial tools, what are the right products for us to present. But at the same time, as I said, it is an opportunity because, a whole new economy, a whole new kind of industry is going to emerge to respond to what is happening worldwide from a climate change perspective. And as everybody said, we know that Jordan is a country that needs to work a lot on adaptation, and it's one of the countries that will be hit hard. So we know that operating models, as we know them, financing models, as we know them, for and the energy sector, for the water sector, for agriculture, if you wish, are not going to be the same for sure. So this is where we are in a big way. And of course, for us as well, we need to understand how to build the right hybrid models. Because, you know, the same way you talk about transition, the same way you talk about investing in new technologies for renewable energy and new technologies that would adapt to what's happening worldwide. And of course, there is a transition. While you do that, you cannot, until you retire the old systems and what you do. This is exactly mirrored in the way we understand business and the way we understand finance. And, you know, for banks also, it's you know, banks are used to the businesses that they know, the cash flows that they know, the operating models that they know. So basically, there is a part of that business where the old kinds of businesses, what are they going to do to adapt to what is happening? That's something I would say that is easier for banks to finance and to understand. And there's also the new investment, the new technologies. And I think banks have to work with fund managers and have to work with other entities in this regime to understand how to actually finance the new startups, the new technologies, and the investments that are required in this place. The other angle I would maybe throw here is that, of course, this has a lot to do with sustainability. And for us, for example, for us as a bank, it is something that is very important, where we are trying to align everything we do with the SDGs, with the Sustainable Development Goals, and finding the right way or the right path towards that. We live in this environment, whether we're talking about the physical environment or the economic environment, and as such, whatever happens or whatever impact that gets created there is something that we need to understand. And today in our world also, we as institutions and many of our clients as well want to do responsible financing, want to do responsible business. So we're required to come up with solutions that would help those people who want to follow that path. And I'll stop here.
Thank you. I'm glad that you mentioned like startups and entrepreneurships, because I know like Bank Al-Etihad are leading in their initiatives to support space and entrepreneurship and startup scene in Jordan. Do you have anything in the pipeline that you are supporting within the space of climate change or the environment and energy?
We have a few, but I would say I think this is an area that will mature more. Let's say we had a few that, for example, worked in the space of solar. Let's say, I mean, like many of you, of course, know when the investment in the solar projects took place, a lot of innovation around that happened. We have seen several startups that looked or worked on solutions for cleaning the panels. We've seen some solutions that looked at billing or that looked at integrating, I mean, like the financial aspects of the savings you make, etc. So I think that innovation around this space will mature as the space itself matures. And, you know, like this requires a clear direction on a country level. It requires, I would say, clear regulation and clear incentives to get people to feel that this is a viable space for them to try to innovate in. But we do have a few, and we do have a few that work in around agriculture or around water. And of course, the last thing I would say is that, you know, like the angle of sustainability and climate change, I would say, has become embedded in many industries. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in energy or in water per se. I would say that it is something that has become integrated in everything we do.
Thank you. So I'd just like to point out that we have 10 more minutes for this session. I'd like to just have one round of general questions that you can each take, and then maybe we can have a few questions from the audience. I have one point that I think we need to raise awareness of, and this is our citizenship responsibility as Jordanians. Littering, water waste, food waste, the plastics, everything that is, you know, like in layman's terms, everything that we're wasting, and we don't have a plan B for this planet. It's just one planet, and we get one shot at protecting it for future generations. So if you had 2 wishes, what would those wishes be in terms of preserving the environment, or, you know, climate change, protection? You can have 2 wishes for Jordan, of course, for Jordan.
2 wishes. Good one. I think most important to create change is to have the mass awareness and education for action. Not to be aware only of the problem, but to do action for that. And so I think one key point to create that mass, because this will influence policy makers, this will create pressure to do, once you are aware of the problem, and make it relevant to you. When waste is relevant to you, it's affecting you, like the health issues, you move faster. The issues with environment and climate change, they are not a direct material today. The impact, I mean. So that's why it's not easy to convince people. But I've seen it changing in Jordan, because see today, we have a CEO of a bank, we have private sector, we have international communities, we have, I think before, when we were talking about environment a few years back, only us environmentalists who speak about environment were in the room, and we were talking among ourselves. Today, the bankers is talking about environment. Private sector is, international community is, the government is. So it's not only the Ministry of Environment, but so this is, I used to say, I want to spread that disease called environment into every ministry, into every sector. It's not a disease, it's just a figure of speech, but it's very important to integrate environment into the different sectors, the thinking process of it.
How about education?
Yes, education. Well, Jordan proudly worked a lot on that. I remember the Royal Society more than 20 years ago started introducing water conservation into the national curriculum, where only 10% of water issues were mentioned in our curriculum. Today, when you open a math book, you see cases about not only figures, but cases about conserving water. We integrated with the Ministry of Education all about protected areas, different environment, waste management. We are creating, hopefully, generations that are very interested in environment. We do, us and other NGOs, of course, but since I'm the chairman of RSCN, I need to be bragging about what we do. We do the nights, nature nights, where every protected area deal with all the schools around it, where we train students, like Al-Kashaf is a man, but on nature conservation. And it's a movement that is growing, and we need it. I can see it going into becoming a national movement, where nature nights become the new soldiers for Jordan environment.
I have 60 wishes. I think if I were to combine them under 2 broad titles, I would start with an action plan that is implementable, and I will not specify an action plan for what. An action plan for everything that we talked about. Again, waste management, e-waste. E-waste is something that we talked about a lot. So I would very much like to see an enforceable implementation of a very firm action plan on that, and that's again a broad title and a broad wish that includes increasing awareness from all the way from the home to the school to the university to the civil service office and to the private sector. The second and that is a passionate wish, maybe an emotional wish, is I would like to see Jordan that is not littered, the beautiful parts of Jordan that is not littered. We have to stop blaming the institutions that do not pick up the trash and start blaming the people who actually throw the trash.
Thank you. Well, two interlinked actually, which is, and the first one might be weird, but I do hope that we start to have less cleanup campaigns. Because for me, I mean, I've been working in the field of environment more than 20 years. I myself organized, participated in thousands of cleanup campaigns. Yani even underwater cleanup dives, beach cleanups, everywhere. So, because, I mean, it still actually sends the wrong message. And I'll say it in Arabic. إذا ما سكرنا الحنفية الزبالة إحنا بدنا نضل يعني نلم بهاي النفايات. Thank you. That's actually my first wish. The second one also related, because we still keep speaking about awareness raising. I wish that we switch to environmental education for sustainability, because now you find everyone is fully aware. I mean, with the social media, with the different, let's say, options, instruments we have, I think we have a proper level of awareness, but we should go, a bit higher. Yeah, thank you.
We will ask Ms. Nadia Al Saeed for her two wishes, and then we'd like to, after that, welcome Mr. Mohammad Khashashneh, General Secretary of the Ministry of Environment, to deliver his keynote speech. Because of traffic, it got delayed, so please, we're asking the audience to excuse us for this delay. Ms. Nadia?
Yes, but just to make sure, because I got a bit confused, two wishes in general in this space, or two wishes related to something specific?
No, two wishes that you would like to share with us that would better help, whatever, your first two wishes in this respect.
Yeah, for me, I think, I really think I would love to see true partnership between the public and the private sector. I would like to see them both delivering on a national strategy and on a national plan, and hopefully we all commit to the plan laid down in the economic vision recently. And I think that I hope that this takes us to a place where we have a clear policy and a roadmap, and where the government provides clear regulation, clear pricing, and clear incentives, and where a lot of opportunity is created for the private sector to do what is necessary and to do the investments and to do the projects.
Thank you. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
أول شيء متأسف معاليك، يعني أنا معلمي هون ما بقدر أحكي كثير بالبيئة. معالي المهندس خالد الإيراني يعني معلمنا كلنا وبصماته في البيئة، ويعني من الوزراء إذا لم يكن الأكثر تميزا في وزراء البيئة برأيي، بجوز يعني شهادتي فيه مجروحة. اليوم إحنا يعني بحمد الله يعني ملف البيئة يعني من أهم الملفات اللي موجودة، وطريق على مؤتمر الكوب 27 بشرم الشيخ يتابع بين أعلى المستويات. لسه قبل شوية احنا عاملين زي ورشة عمل، يعني بنعد أو بنساهم بإعداد الأوبننج سبيتش لجلال سيدنا وولي العهد ودولة الرئيس. يعني هذول الثلاثة راح يشاركوا، وراح يكون في إلهم غير أصحاب المعالي الوزراء، فهذا دليل على أنه الموضوع أصبح يأخذ أهمية يعني استثنائية بحمد الله. كنا يعني بمعية بعض الزملاء امبارح علشان وادي رم، يوم الخميس كمان اجتماع له يتابع من أعلى المستويات، ويمكن معالي المهندس كان موجود امبارح. احنا رئيس الجمعية كمان، أنا كنت باثنين معاليك، يوم السبت كنت وادي رم، وامبارح كنا بوزارة السياحة برضه مشان نتابع هذا الموضوع، مشان تستوب ليترنج. واحد من الوشز اللي حكوها الأخ سامر يعني وبشكره عليها، إنه واحد فعلا من الإشي اللي صرنا نطمح له المفروض ما يكون في عندنا يعني، بس للأسف موجود. فهي هاي الأشياء اللي يعني بنحاول نتجنبها. يعني ما بعرف، في اتيتيود سلبي، هذا الإشي اللي لازم إحنا نغيره. يعني بلادنا بخير، والتنوع الحيوي وحتى حماية البيئة، إحنا سابقين ناس كثير بهذا الموضوع. موضوع الإجراءات اللي بتعطيها الدولة لموضوع حماية البيئة والتغيرات المناخية كثير مهمة. وأكيد أنتم بتعرفوا NDC أو National Determined Contribution، إنه كيف إحنا التزمنا بتخفيض 31% من الانبعاثات بحلول عام 2030. في عنا سياسة التغير المناخي الآن في طريقها للإقرار، أنه يصير الإقرار من مجلس الوزراء أنه يكون في عندنا تعادل كربوني بحلول عام 2050. كيف الإيموبيليتي الآن عم تزيد. طبعا في جهود يعني فردية، وفي جهود مؤسسية، وفي جهود دولة، وفي جهود دولية. يعني بنشكر كمان، شايف الأخ عمر أبو-عيد يعني من الاتحاد الأوروبي، من أكثر الداعمين الاتحاد الأوروبي. شايف IUCN يعني، وكل الزملاء موجودين من مختلف الجهات. بس اليوم احنا يعني سعيدين انه بالانجازات اللي بتتحقق بجهود كل الشركاء. واحد من الشركاء الرئيسيين RSCN اللي احنا بنعتز بشراكتنا معاهم. اليوم كان عندنا السفير الياباني اللي هو بيسألنا عن موضوع اللي هو التعديلات على سايتس وهاي الاشياء. دليل على ايش؟ انه يعني اليابان بتيجي مشان تنسق الجهود مع الأردن، مشان ياخذوا يعني قرار في فائدة للبشرية ومشترك بيننا وبين اليابان على بعض القضايا اللي تعنى بالاتجار ببعض الحيوانات والكائنات والى آخره. فهذا دليل على انه الحمد لله اصبحنا على الخارطة، ويعني فيجر مهم. طبعا هذا بجهود الجميع. بنحب انه نستمر، وحاب مش بس انه نستمر، انه حتى يعني نتميز اكثر. في عنا هلا جهود، وفي عنا فرصة نكون ريجينال هاب لرينوبل انرجي، للتنوع الحيوي، للمحميات. كل هاي الاشياء يعني مع بعض احنا ان شاء الله بنقدر نوصل لها. يعني بشكركم على الدعوة مرة ثانية، وإحنا بنشد على جهودكم بكل الإمكانيات اللي عنا، يعني سواء كانت بالحكومة، ونحن ليسوا يعني أسبق من بعض الإخوان الزملاء والأصحاب المعالي اللي موجودين. بس كلياتنا كفريق واحد بنقدر نوصل للأهداف اللي إحنا إن شاء الله بنحققها. الأكاديمية ما بديش أنسى الدكتور عبدالله كمان، وجهوده بالتغيرات المناخية ومساهماته بمختلف الريبورتس. مرة ثانية أنا بشكركم على الدعوة، والله يعطيكم العافية.
Shukran ilak, and I just want to say a few words. Jordan is a very small, peaceful country located in the Middle East. It's a beautiful country with many attractions, and I encourage you to go on the RSCN website, check out the jewels that we have here in Jordan. And if you are somebody that enjoys trekking, hiking, the outdoors, it is the perfect location for you. Make picture your next vacation, and you are all very welcome to come here. With this, I'd like to end this session. Thank you so much. And I think we will move on directly to our next panel. So thank you all very much.